Good afternoon and welcome to Tree Talk episode 213 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Another bumper action-packed weekend ahead of us. Look forward to. We have two Munster finals. We've an All-Ireland semi-final. We've a lot of looking back to do as well. We had two Munster finals at the weekend. We had the Intermediate Hurling final. We had elections of officers, and the 21s championships are starting to come to an end. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Again, a warm welcome to everyone tuning in. If you're watching live, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube and Facebook. If you're on Twitter, retweet it or like. They're really appreciated, especially as we come towards Christmas. To be in the spirit of giving. Matt, it's Wednesday afternoon here recording. It's quite cold, but I suppose the Munster Club action is keeping us warm.
It is, Jack, and it's Arctic in the shade here in Glenroe anyway, but it's very, very pleasant in the sunshine, I have to say. I was out there sometime before I come on the podcast now, but I was reflecting on it there during the week, and the Munster Club Championship this year, the campaign has been very, very successful for Limerick. When was the last time we had four teams get into provincial finals? Two in hurling and two in football and two in least football as well, and one in camogie. We've had 7 teams reaching provincial finals this year, which is phenomenal, Jack. Right across the codes, right across the 4 codes. And we already have picked up 2, thankfully, and 2 more to go. Let's hope that, we will double the tally come Sunday evening.
Yeah, and talking about Munster finals, I think it's the right place to start is Piarsaigh last Sunday, and I suppose against the odds in many regards, against a really fancied Rathmore side, Monaleen got the job done, and not only did they get the job done, relatively comfortable, Matt, in beating Rathmore 122 to 18 points. Mark Adare had 15 on his own. I know 11 of them were frees, but a lot of them were hard frees and 65s. We'd Andrew Tush Cosgrave doing what we know he's capable of, and obviously had an injury-blighted season. He was in fantastic form. Ed Doyle got the goal, and at the other end, Jamie Power made a couple of brilliant saves. Defence had firm, and a really important Munster title win for Limerick. Effin were the last team to win the intermediate in 2011. In the meantime, only Newcastle, only Piarsaigh and Kilmallock have won titles in Munster in hurling. So, Monaleen bridged a certain gap there and thoroughly deserving of that win.
Oh, not a doubt about it, Jack. I watched it back twice, and it was a fantastic, Jack, all-round team performance by Monaleen. Now it was pretty tight in the first half as we expected, and but in particularly in the third quarter, Jack, when the Monaleen deservedly outscored 8 points to 1. I think a 1 point lead at halftime by the 3/4 stage had morphed into being a 7-point lead, and at that stage, Jack, you could see you couldn't see anything but a Monaleen victory, and that's the way that it transpired. Now, Rathmore battled, but they battled at a distance. Now, they did have a great chance. Alan Tynan had a powerful shot in the 53rd minute, which was brilliantly saved by Jamie Power. And had that gone in, it would have closed the gap to something like maybe 3 points at that stage. And you would have to say we could have been in for a nail-biting finish. But immediately Monaleen drove on again, and I would have to reference the Monaleen goal, Jack, and you probably saw it.
Yeah.
The actual sheer work rate and the effort that was put in by Andrew Latouche-Cosgrave. He chased a hopeless cause into the corner. But it will tell you about what this Monaleen team is about, because the time was nearly up. They were 6 or something clear. They were probably out the gate, but that he literally created the goal. And then when he was about to be hooked up, he kicked it to Ed Doyle, and Ed Doyle's finish, Jack, wow, absolutely perfection.
Yeah, I'd say Andrew was watching the World Cup like you with his footballing skills there, and I know he won a junior with Monaleen not too long ago. But yeah, brilliant finish then.
I think he kind of hooked it out with the side of his foot, I think, as far as I remember. But
yeah,
but I made the point, Jack, and I made the point in my subsequent report that two players that I thought they typified Monaleen on the day. And whilst they only scored 1 point between them, the contribution of Andrew Latouche-Cosgrave and Luke Murphy, in my opinion, was phenomenal. Their work rate.
Yeah.
And I think they typified the new Monaleen, because I've made the point before, and I made it to Monaleen Connections after the county final, that the Monaleen team that's going back up senior bears little resemblance to the team that came down last year. There has been a dramatic change, and not just in personnel, but there has been a dramatic change in the way they're going about it, and they've found a new mental strength, Jack. And they're now Munster champions. The world, Jack, is at their feet. Now they'll face the Leinster champions in the semi-final, and the Leinster final is on this weekend, and it's between unlikely finalists, the Meath champions and the Wicklow champions, Bray Emmets. Now they will probably be senior teams, and Trem will go into the Leinster final with a certain pedigree in that they knocked out Danesford on their way, the Kilkenny champions on their way to the Leinster final. But that's for another day. We'll be talking about that next week. But like Ross Fraley, they came in actually very, very firm favourites, Jack.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They were relegated like Monaleen last year, but my understanding is they were relegated in different circumstances, in that they were relegated in a restructuring process that went on in Tipperary, in contrast to Monaleen, who just didn't win enough games in their Senior B championship last year to preserve senior status. But like, this is a new Monaleen team, and like looking at the young players again, Lachlan Lyons, Jack, has been absolutely immense. What a captain! Mark O'Dwyer, Ed Doyle, Donegal O'Dawley. But what about the young players? Ronan Lyons. I thought Ronan Lyons was at a new level last Sunday. Brian Kenny, outstanding at fullback. This guy is only 18 or 19 years of age.
Yeah,
and you're the two lads at midfield, Joseph Fitzgerald, Lachlan McHale.
Yeah.
This is a Monaleen team that's on an upward trajectory, and as I said, the world is their oyster at this stage, Jack. I don't want to preempt anything, but I think they're going to be a very, very, very hard team to beat in the All-Ireland series. And Jack, what I like about him, I saw him in the county semi-final. Saw him in the county final. They showed measurable improvement. Saw him in the Munster semi-final. They showed more improvement. And last Sunday they capped it all. They brought their level of play and their level of performance to a new level, I thought. Last Sunday. Heartiest congratulations to Monaleen. Extremely, extremely well done. They have done their club proud. They have done their county proud. and they're very, very, very worthy ambassadors of their county and their province going forward to the All-Ireland Series.
Yeah, 100%. Big congratulations to Monaleen. As you said, they've improved game on game. That was definitely their most comprehensive performance so far. They've obviously lost 2 minor under-19 finals in a row, so they are building a lot of those lads, as you mentioned, the likes of Joe Fitz, Ronan Lyons, Larkin, or Lachlan McHale, So they are coming through, and they will be a force to reckon with. And we'll be looking at Monaleen again next week when they have that semi-final against either Bray Emmets or Trim. So again, well done to Monaleen. I hope they're enjoying their celebrations. But by now, they're probably knuckling down again to looking forward to that All-Ireland semi-final. But unfortunately, it wasn't all wins for Limerick on Sunday. St. Kierans were back in the Munster final for the first time in 10 years. They were against a very fancied Ballygiblin side, and they ran up just short, 3-12-11. It finished in Mallow. Doesn't really tell the whole story of the game, Matt. The first half, it finished 3-2-7, 7 scores against 5, but Ballygiblin got the goals, and ultimately it was the goals that pulled them over the line. But a really valiant effort from St. Kierans against the side who reached the Junior Ireland final last year, it has to be said.
Oh, absolutely. A very gallant and a very proud performance by St. Kierans. And like St. Kierans going to Mallow last Sunday were under no illusions as to the task that was facing them, the mammoth task that was facing them in the very, very accomplished Ballygiblin side. And yeah, you're right. The old cliche goals win games, and that was borne out, particularly in the first half, and particularly the concession of the first 2 goals in the first quarter when the St. Kierans defence really hadn't settled down and were really opened up. And of course, we had the spectacular performance by Shane Beston, who 24 hours earlier walked down the aisle with his new bride. And what a wedding present it was for him, and indeed a present for his club, Ballygiblin. But you'd have to say that he's the ultimate predator, because for the first goal, if you look back on it, Jack, and you recall, it was a very, very good build-up by St. Kierans. And at the end, the final effort, which was batted, seemed to be going wide of the target. And he came in, he ghosted in on the left and just really, really made the most of it. It was a predator's instinct. And it's the second goal. He got a good second goal as well. But the third goal, at the risk of repeating the word predator, it was typical predator. There he was, loitering around goal, hoping that something would happen. And by God, it happened. When Cathal O'Mahony's effort came back off the post, and he gratefully dispatched it into the net. But you would have to credit St. Kierans, and you would have to feel for them. Twice they've been there. It was a historic final, Jack, insofar as not only was it the first time that a team was defending the final, defending the title, which Ballygiblin were, and but it was a meeting of the all 2 teams that have now reached, because St. Kierans have now been beaten twice in the final, and beaten by next door neighbours. They were beaten by Kildare in 2012, and now beaten by Kildare's neighbours down the road, Mitchelstown, or Ballygiblin. But it may be of little consolation to St. Kierans, but they left Mallow, in my opinion, with their reputation untarnished on Sunday. I think they can be extremely proud of their effort. They came up against an extraordinarily good Junior A hurling team, as good a Junior A hurling team as I have seen, Jack, and they just came up that little bit short, and the power, it was an unusual game, Jack. There was an unusual feature of the game, and an unusual statistic, and in the game only 4 players scored, 2 from each side. Joseph O'Sullivan, who was outstanding at centre forward, and Shane Beston got all the Ballygiblin scores. Ian Mackesy, who was absolutely inspirational captain for St. Kierans, he got 10 of St. Kierans' 11 points. And
Darren
but
Tracy got the other.
Tracy got the first. Dara got the first. A disappointing day for St. Kierans. I think were they up against normal opposition rather than what I would regard as extraordinary opposition. It's an extraordinarily good Junior A team, Ballygiblin. Make no mistake about that. And I've seen it firsthand here. They're my next door neighbours here. I've seen it firsthand, the rise of Ballygiblin, right up, struggling up through Junior B ranks and then trying to find their feet at the old Junior A in Cork and finally breaking through last year to win the county. And there's great credit due to them. Like they went up to the Premier Junior A, which was a new Premier Junior A, but it was the equivalent to intermediate teams of last year. And they prevailed against this, prevailed against them, and full credit to them. We all know about the heroics of Shane Beston, but Joseph O'Sullivan, whose father is a Kilbehenny man, a Galty Gales man, he's a scoring machine, Jack.
Yeah.
He scored a goal and 15 points in the first round. He got 10 points in another game during the group stage. He got 9 points last Sunday. And he's not totally dependent on getting scores from frees. He's able to get them from play as well.
Mark O'Dwyer at the same time,
Yeah, he's a phenomenal marksman, and in the same position, just like Mark O'Dwyer. But just reverting back to Mark O'Dwyer for a minute, maybe we should have dwelt on it more in the intermediate. The way he has evolved as a hurler, Jack, is just simply phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like Mark O'Dwyer, yeah, he got 15 points. 4 of them, you must remember, were from play, Jack. And you were one of the ones that waxed lyrical, and I waxed lyrical about it, about the goal that he got against St. Joseph's Dora Bearfield, and that wasn't from a free.
He's a phenomenal hurler. The first time I saw him play was, I'd say, 4 or 5 years ago for the 21s. He came on against Clare below an Ennis. I don't know why he wasn't starting. He scored, I'd say, 1-2 in a brief cameo. As the team that was captained by Kyle Hayes, they were beaten by Tip, I think, in the Munster semi-final. But brilliant hurler, and I'd imagine there'll probably be a call from John Kiley coming for Mark soon. But overall, disappointment for St. Kierans, but they did themselves justice.
I'm likening Joseph O'Sullivan to him now. They are two of a kind, because you have these players and you have these marksmen which are exclusively almost dead ball specialists, but these guys have got the full hand. Now, full credit to St. Kierans, Jack. Dara Flynn got 12 points against Limerick in the Munster final last year. Got no score against St. Kierans. Cathal O'Mahony is a Cork senior footballer, a real live wire. Got no score against St. Kierans.
Yeah. No,
I just wonder, hadn't they conceded those 2 early goals, and they'll say, go on, he's ranting about what if now, but what way would the game have panned out?
Yeah, it's hard to know.
St. Kierans made it very, very difficult for Ballygiblin. And Jack, at the end of the day, it was not a 10-point game. No doubt whatsoever. The better team won. The team that deserved to win won. But maybe not by the margin.
No, I don't think the margin was a justified winner, is fair enough, but St. Kierans did their best, and I think the way Ian Maxey spoke after the game says a lot about the team. But unfortunately for St. Kierans, they just couldn't get the job done. That's 2 months final losses in 10 years. But on the same day as well, it was really busy Sunday. All games thrown in at 1 o'clock. We had na Piarsaigh against Croke Kilfinney in the intermediate final. Na Piarsaigh ran out winners in the end, 119-14. Probably their start was enough. It kind of kept them going for the game. Croke did level after about 40 minutes. Probably expended so much energy in getting back level. Then the Piarsaigh pulled away, and they were able to bring on substitutes as well. Time over, they had a couple of All-Ireland winners as well. which helps. And the worrying thing for all clubs is the Piarsaigh will be operating at Premier Intermediate and Senior next year. And they've good players coming through as well that haven't really featured. Unfortunately for Croke Kilfinny, it's 2 final losses in a row, but the Piarsaigh juggernaut rolls on.
It does, and I suppose a sub-paragraph to the chapter, Jack, of course, and we must mention it, was the Piarsaigh goalkeeper, whose career was cruelly, at inter-county career was cruelly, and seeing a club career was cruelly cut short 2 or 3 years ago. I'm talking about Shane Dowling. The resilience he has shown to go to put himself and drive himself through that barrier and come back and play such a critical part in his club, winning what is a major county championship.
Yeah,
absolutely. And not only were he kept the clean sheet in the final, of course, but not only were his heroics in goal called upon during the year, but you will recall the last minute free that he buried, I think was in the first round against Fiona.
First round against Fiona,
that turned the likely defeat into victory. And probably, Jack, was probably the catalyst for the drive that drove the Piarsaigh to where it eventually ended. There could be no question about it. The 2 best teams in the Intermediate Championship were in the final. The statistics will bear that out. They both topped their groups with 100% records. They both won their respective semi-finals. Now, the Piarsaigh were put to the pin of their collar by Ballingarry. And of course, you will recall, Jack, that when we were previewing these games, we were talking about the potential of Ballingarry in that particular as being something of dark horses, and that will tell you how near they were. It's a very, very disappointing. I can only imagine how Croke Kilfinny are feeling at the moment. I experienced it, Jack, as a young man when I was chairman of my club here in Glenroe. We lost 3 county finals in a row, 75, 76 and 77 intermediate championships to Fedamore, Mungret and Drummond at Clacka. And I tell you, it's not a nice place to be.
No,
but
it isn't.
The start that the Piarsaigh got was absolutely crucial. Now, I think the shooting of Croke Kilfinny in the early exchanges was wayward and probably cost them, but a fair dues to them, they just got over that and they got back and they leveled the game. And, they were really, really in the hunt until James Daly came in and got that goal. And in tight situations like that, we have seen a goal, Jack, it can close the door very firmly, in favour of firmly against the team that's trying to catch up. I feel so sorry. As I say, I can empathise with Croke Kilfinny. There's very little words that you or I can say that will console him at this stage. I know the concluding stages, and it has to be mentioned, of the championship wasn't ideal insofar as that, we had a protracted wait for the county final, which didn't help anybody. I don't know what the circumstances of it were, but it was far from ideal. But heartiest congratulations to the Piarsaigh. It's a phenomenal performance, Jack, to have 2 teams competing in the 2 primary competitions in the championship next year in senior hurling and in Premier Intermediate hurling. It's huge credit to him, Jack.
Yeah, it's huge credit, but as I said, it's kind of frightening for the other teams. But it's true, sheer grit, determination. I suppose they're putting in the time and effort in the Piarsaigh. You see so many of the senior boys giving back and training underage, and they obviously had that 7 in a row at under 21s. A lot of those lads are are still around, still in their prime, still in their peak, and the likes then of Shane Dowling through injury, but the likes of Alan Dempsey, Pat Gleeson, these lads aren't just packing it in, they're going down, giving it as good as they had with the seniors, with intermediate.
James O'Brien, you know.
James O'Brien, Dave Breen was another one, you know, that played throughout the year. So, you know, they're winning for a reason. You know, it's not just down to population. That'll help, but you have to put in the work.
You also throw in the other end of the spectrum. Vince Harrington is just out of minor ranks. JJ Carey's just after helping Artscore Reach to win a first ever Croke Cup. You know, so there's good mixture in the team, you know.
There is, you know, and Shane Dowling references it, this team is for the future in the Piarsaigh and for that senior team, but while they're winning, they're going to be needed from intermediate level. We've seen how great of competition it is, but you know, they're there through merit. Huge, I suppose, commiserations to Croke Kilfinney losing again, but the day belonged to the Piarsaigh, and you know, they'll give it as good as they get in the Premier Intermediate ranks.
Absolutely, Jack. They are going to be a tough nut to crack in the Premier Intermediate. They're like, for the reasons you've just mentioned, and the players you've just mentioned, the Shane Dowlings, the Alan Dempseys, the James O'Briens, the Pat Gleeson, the Niall Buckleys of this world, they're all accustomed to playing hurling at a higher level. So there'll be very, very little settling in process for them at the higher level.
No, they'll be ready to hit the ground running. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, we'll get onto the Piarsaigh more in a minute when we come to football. But just keeping with the theme of hurling and moving on to Camogie, Adare are in action this weekend in an All-Ireland semi-final. They obviously were the first Limerick team to win the Munster Championship this year. They then had to go to London. It's been a long journey to this stage for Adare, probably starting last year with the Junior Championship, but they're against Bredini Oga of Antrim this Sunday in Edenderry at 1:00. And you know, by the way Adare have been playing so far this year and the results they've gotten, they'll probably have to go into the game as favourites against Bredini Oga, who won at the weekend in their respective tie.
They will. Michelle Gallagher and co out there mightn't forgive me for saying it, but they probably will go in as favourites. You know, if you look at their record, if you look at their record over the last 2 years, Jack, by any benchmark, by any yardstick, it is simply phenomenal, and the graph is going all the way, going the same way all the time upwards. And you referenced there the winning the Junior A Championship last year. I saw them winning the Junior A Championship last year, and I came away from Effin that day absolutely convinced that I was seeing an emerging team, and a team that would make life difficult for everybody at intermediate level. And we did flag it at the start of the year, Jack. I would remind listeners that at the start of the year, we did flag to look out for them in the Intermediate Championship. And certainly they proved us right, and went into Munster, got nothing easy in Munster, had to travel to Clare to beat Tulla, and then played the Waterford champions, Bricky Rangers. And as you said, they came in at the quarter final leg of the competition, and it entailed a long jaunt out to London, and they got over a hurdle very comfortably there, I thought. Maybe struggled for a bit in the first half, and they're playing against a very, very strong wind. But, you know, coming up to halftime and immediately after halftime, Jack really found their rhythm. And now they're coming up against the Bredini Og side, who are the Antrim Intermediate champions. And there's no doubt about them. They've actually come from nowhere, Jack, Bredini Og, to win the Antrim Championship. They were beaten in the county finals of 2017, 2018 and 2019, and in the semi-final of 20, and got nowhere in 2021. And suddenly they have resurrected, and they've regrouped and won the Antrim Championship, and they beat on Rake from Down in the Ulster semi-final, and then they beat Grangemore. The Intermediate Championship. from Armagh who contained a certain Rachel Merry, who is one of the top one of the top markswomen outside of senior camogie in the country. And they got over that, and the information that I have, they won 113 to 9 points. The information I have, Jack, you probably have it as well, was that the victory was far more convincing than a 7 points margin would suggest. So, like, Adare will have to tread very, very cautiously. This could be a banana skin for Adare. They will have to tread very cautiously. But a hallmark of this Adare team and this Adare, crusade at the moment, and successful crusade, is the meticulous way that they plan in advance for games. And I have no doubt they will have run the rule over Bridini Oga. Oga. That's very important, Jack. Bridini Oga. And they will have a game plan. They will have a strategy ready for them. And of course, it's one thing having a game plan, but and having a strategy. But what is hugely important, of course, is to have the players to be able to execute that. And I feel that Adare have the players right down the middle. Like Aisling Connolly is still in a race against time to be fit for the semi-final. Were she to be fit would be a huge boost. But by God, how Evian Houlihan has performed in her absence. A goal in the Munster final, the game's only goal in the Munster final, which in the end proved crucial. 2 goals in London in the quarter final. Like Michelle Gallagher, Tony Dunn, and their management team down there have a right headache if Aisling is ready and fit for Sunday. But nice kind of a headache to have. And I'm pretty confident and certainly more than hopeful, Jack, that when we're talking here next week, we could be looking forward to Adare, and Adare will be looking forward to an All-Ireland final. The other semi-final is on Saturday, Jack. It's between St. Dominic's of Roscommon, who would have most of the Roscommon inter-county team, and a club called Knock and Anna from Wicklow. I had to do some time on diction and elocution and learning pronunciation before I came on, Jack, to make sure I got it right. Knock and Anna. Have you got that?
Knock and Anna. I'm going to go with. If you say it quick enough, people won't know if you're right or wrong. But all this weekend from a Limerick point of view will be on Adare and Bridini Oga. And as you mentioned there, going through the team, the players they have and they've shown they've been true to form this year, winning all around them. It's continued on from 2021. So the best to look to Adare, and you'd have huge confidence in them coming away from Edenderry with a win. And please God, we can look forward to an All-Ireland final.
Actually, Jack, there's a very quick turnaround to the All-Ireland final because it's the following week, is my understanding.
I'm not aware now when it's on, but it wouldn't surprise me that they'd want to get these competitions done before Christmas, and that's fair enough as well.
Jack, I've one overarching worry for this weekend, and it is the weather forecast that we have been receiving.
Yeah.
Are grounds going to be unplayable? Are they going to be so frozen that they'll be dangerous?
Yeah, I suppose every field will be different in that regard. You'd be hopeful that, regardless of how late in the year it is, common sense will prevail and they won't just play these games for the sake of it. Early games at 1 o'clock could be in trouble. You'd imagine Newcastle's in the evening time that it had the date maybe thought it should be fine. But it'd be another subplot to all these games. But we mentioned Newcastle West, and for me, they're the standout game of the weekend. Munster senior football final against Kerins Rallies. First one in 14 years for a Limerick club. Newcastle went back-to-back in Limerick for the first time just a couple of months ago. Did it the hard way against Monaleen and against Adare at the last minute and then in extra time. But did it the hard way against Clonmel as well. But in truth, they were the better team over the course of 80 minutes in Semple Stadium. Really showed that towards the end, pulled away They're playing a Kerry team, which has been the ultimate bogey for Limerick football in any measure. Like, Fussa were comprehensive winners over Castleman a few weeks ago. Kerry beat Limerick in the Munster final in May. The Piarsaigh will face Kerry opposition as well, and we'll get to that. But in terms of Newcastle, you'd have to be confident in them and in their ability, not only down to the fact of how they beat Clonmel, but the fact they've gone back to back and they're just so laden with top quality players and winners.
Yeah, of course, the Munster Senior football final, and Fossa and Castlemahan will have absolutely no bearing on Saturday evening. Thank God, Jack. And you were at the press evening, the same as myself, the Newcastle West press evening earlier in the week, and like there was an air of relaxed confidence, I thought, about it, Jack.
Yeah.
There is a certain level of confidence in the team. But look, Jack, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't they be confident? And I think that they're this year, right from the get-go, I think they have been the outstanding team in Limerick. Like last year when they won the Limerick Senior Football Championship, there were a couple of valleys, there were a couple of poor performances, there was a couple of questionable performances where you'd raise questions about them. Jack, that was all gone this year. It is a totally different focus and a different approach by Newcastle. And look, they have the records. They have the record for the year to show for it. Like through the Limerick Championship group stage, unbeaten, beat Monaleen and beat Adare in the concluding stages, which to me were phenomenal games for them in terms of preparing a team for greater challenges down the road. I don't think that these were two excellent challenges. Monaleen really put it up to them. Like they only clinched it when Dermot Kelly got a 61st minute goal. Now they were ahead at that stage, but they were really only out of the woods when that goal went in. And then you had the county final, where Doherty had to come up in the closing stages, and Doc's point right from the feet. But it was a learning process, and it was stealing their resolve all the time, Jack. And those type of tests, I think, stood them in very good stead when they went to play commercials in Thurles, and particularly when the game went to extra time, because I think in that extra time period, Jack, there was only going to be one winner. They had the resolve, they had the fitness, and they went and they got the scores. I've been saying all the year, Jack, that the attacking potential in this Newcastle West team is excellent. They when they attack a team, they can be very, very, very serious performers.
Yeah, definitely. They have some really top class forwards in their ranks. I think the way they were able to leave Dermot on the bench for the majority of the campaign, and they're obviously without AJ and Jamie Lee is abroad, and these players come through, the likes of Emma Rigter and Todd Donovan and Rowan O'Connor and Owen Hurley is stepping up to the plate, and Shane Stack as well. There's so many options, and and you have someone like Mike Mack then as well, who you can go route one with Mike, you can put him into midfield, you can do a lot of things with him. Keane Sheehan and Ian Corbett around the midfield. They're a really, really comprehensive team. There's no weakness in them. But at the end of the day, they are playing Kerry opposition. Kerins Rathleys have David Moore and Jack Savage is back. They've more Barry John Keane, Tommy Walsh, Cormac Coffey. Kerry have been the bogey team for Limerick in all facets of football, and these things have to end eventually. And it seems like this weekend there's something about it that you feel Newcastle have a really good chance to end that barn run for Limerick. Yeah,
that's the sense. That's the sense, and that I got on Monday evening as well, Jack. About there's I don't know, this year that there is a confidence in Newcastle West that is not misplaced. It's for a very, very good reason. But I suppose sometimes we mix up confidence and belief. But there's a new belief there, Jack, that they can do this. And like we've seen them, you know. If Newcastle West are in this game with 10 minutes to go, Jack, I would back them all the way. Because if you see, as I already outlined against Monaleen, really down to the wire, against Adare, had the game lost until Doc came up and kicked the point. You know, were forced to extra time in the semi-final. And you must remember, in both cases where they went to extra time, there was really only going to be one winner.
Yeah, I think that was the most...
It'll tell you about the resilience they have and the belief that they have, the level of preparation that they have endured, and the level of fitness, Jack. I think they think an awful lot of boxes. I think Jimmy Lee, Stephen Kelly, their coach, Liam Keane, Martin O'Sullivan, their management team, they've done an excellent job in the preparation of this team. This is as well a prepared team as will leave Limerick for a Munster final in a long, long time, Jack.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would have said Newcastle were the best team in Limerick for a good number of years now, and they had a bad day in them in the past, but I think they've kind of rectified all that. And as I said, there just seems to be something different about this weekend. Kerins Rallies weren't the Kerry County champions. They won the club championship, which, you know, is no mean feat, but they were knocked out in the Kerry County championship, which bodes well again for Newcastle. But they beat Aero Guinness with 14 men for the most of it, and that man they were without was David Moore. And so, you know, they were equally impressive in their semi-final. So it should make for an interesting game.
Yeah, they were really put to the pin of their collar in the Kerry clubs final by Temple No. They only won it by 15 points to 14.
Yeah.
But then, like you have Temple No would be powered by the Spillane clan, of course, and of course that wonderful footballer who got an overdue All-Star this year, Tyg Morley. Would be a huge player for them. So, like I suppose it was no mean feat to get over Temple No.
No, and any Kerry team you're going to play in any grade, they're going to be formidable. You know, the Kerry club championships are notoriously difficult to win, and you know, Limerick, neither of us can recall the last time a Limerick team beat a Kerry team in any sort of competition. So that's what's up against Newcastle. But for me, I think Newcastle can win it. I don't know what I call it. I just haven't seen Austin Stacks last year. I know how good the Kerry teams can be, and seen Newcastle up close. I know how good Newcastle were last year, and Austin Stacks, you know, just destroyed them really. But if I was to call it, I would edge slightly for Newcastle, which is strange when you have a Limerick team against a Kerry team. How would you, if you were to call it?
I'm going the same way with you, and I know that when Kerry teams, when there's a bit of silverware up in the stand, the fire it puts into their belly, the spark that ignites within them. But I have this feeling about Newcastle West, and I've a feeling that this is their destiny. Like there's a number of hurdles that this particular team have surmounted, and of course, winning back-to-backs was one, and the second was winning a semi-final and getting through to a Munster final for the first time in 35 years. So I think there's something special about this Newcastle West team, and I'm leaning towards them, Jack.
Yeah, I'd be going that way as well. Obviously, neither team has won a Munster before, so someone's O has got to go, and hopefully it'll be Limerick, and it would go some bit towards making up for that Munster final loss in the Intercounty Championship back in May. But the best of luck to Newcastle, all the players and management. There'll surely be a large Newcastle contingent in Páirc Uí Rinn on Saturday night, under nights. It promised to be a very enjoyable occasion, and hopefully it'll be the Limerick team coming out on top. It'll be the first of two Limerick versus Kerry finals on Sunday afternoon at 3:30 in Mallow. We have in the Piarsaigh against Rathmore. I suppose anything that we said about Kerins rallies will translate over to Rathmore in terms of how good Kerry football is. But we'll start with Na Piarsaigh. We had mentioned that they probably would have been one of the favourites to come out of Limerick. Then walkovers, things once again against them. They didn't seem to mind that. They came back. They beat Mungret. They beat Trum. They won against Rathmore pretty comprehensively in their quarterfinal. Now, their semi-final was very forgettable. I think it's fair to say that. And you were there firsthand. But they still got the job done. And we know how good Na Piarsaigh can be. And they play a nice brand of football, which could be something that could be different against the Kerry team. But they will need to be careful at the back. You know, if you do open up, Rathmore have the ability to upset you. I don't think they have Paul Murphy. I think he's away on a honeymoon, if I'm right. But they do have Shane Ryan, the all-star goalie, who does play outfield and it scores a fair share. But firstly, on the Piarsaigh, you probably be looking for more like performance they had against Rathmore or even Drum in the Limerick final.
Yeah, of course. And I would certainly be looking for a more Na Piarsaigh-like performance because, as I said to you in last week's podcast, they were involved in a dire semi-final, Jack. There's no sugarcoating of it. And I suppose they'd be forced to put their hands up and say it themselves. It was a most Na Piarsaigh-like performance. And they were lucky to come out of it. But they did show resilience, Jack, in coming out of it and getting the result. And, of course, at the end of the day, Jack, and we've said this before, and it's a bit of a cliche now, semi-finals are all about getting through to the final. Nobody remembers beating semi-finalists, or very few anyway, except those that are aligned to those that are beaten. And I think there's a far much better performance in Na Piarsaigh. But Na Piarsaigh will be pragmatic and realistic enough to know, Jack, going to Mallow on Sunday, that they're up against a very, very strong Rathmore side. Now, Kanturk, Jack, were rated very, very, very highly in Cork. And the expectation was that they would be very strong contenders for the Munster Championship this year. But by God, the way Rathmore literally blew them out of the water, and were it not for a couple of late goals, you know, the final scoreline would have been very, very, very lopsided and wouldn't have made very, very pleasant reading for Kanturk. But and that would give you an idea of the strength. And you're right, Paul Murphy apparently is going to be missing. He's on his honeymoon, and Shane Ryan. And now they were the only two players from Rathmore, Jack, that were on the East Kerry team that won the Munster the Kerry Senior Football Championship.
Yeah.
I checked that and to see if there were others, but there weren't. And it was like Fossa. The two Cliffords were the only two players from Fossa that were on the East Kerry team. To give you an idea of the strength of East Kerry. They're up against a very, very, very strong. And I think Rathmore are going for 8 in a row for Kerry clubs. A Kerry club hasn't been beaten in the Munster Club Intermediate Clubs Championship since 2013 when Curra were beaten by Clyde Rovers from North Cork. It's a long time ago, Jack. They're definitely going for 8 in a row. There was no competition in 2020 because of the pandemic, so it's looking as if they're going for 8 in a row, which is simply phenomenal. And you know, you say fair play to the Kerry clubs, but probably raises questions about the structure of the competition.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
One county can dominate it to such an extent. I think it's I don't know. I find it hard to believe it's a level playing field. You know, to accept that it's a level playing field, I don't. But that is what it is. What we're confronted with now is trying to make a judgment on Na Piarsaigh and Rathmore on Sunday. I think it will take an extraordinary performance by Na Piarsaigh to come out of Mallow with a win. But, you know, here's hoping.
Yeah,
they are Na Piarsaigh after all. There's a winning mentality coursing through the veins of that club, Jack. And a belief that anything is possible.
Yeah, and
So they won't leave Mallow without a fight, Jack.
they won't. No, there's no fear of that, and they do have some very nice footballers. And I suppose this game will be more suited to a summertime game because they both like to play a ball. But yeah,
Absolutely.
there's no point saying they won't be up against us, because they will in Rathmore. But as you said, they're a club that have proved us wrong on so many occasions, and they've won 3 county titles this year. They're going to be senior for intermediate in hurling next year. They're going to be senior in football. They're a club that continue to go from strength to strength. When you think they're finished, they come back and shock you. So that'll be the hope, that this weekend that they can pull off a big shock and upset the Kerry dominance in the intermediate championship. It's a tall order.
If you like, Jack, they're going into the final in an ideal position, in an ideal place, an ideal position, been totally written off.
Yeah, and as well,
had they played to their full potential as Piarsaigh can play, and you made a very, very, very valid point there about the summer. The type of football that they play is certainly far more suited to summer football or better footballing conditions. Although the conditions in Kilmallock for the semi-final were very, very good, but you still have that winter air about it. And Jack, here's hoping from the Piarsaigh the very best of luck to them.
Yeah, the best of luck to Piarsaigh, and hopefully it'll be the second Munster Championship that weekend to come home to Limerick and fourth overall. I suppose keeping local for a while and the under-21s championship, just a quick run through them. I'm just going to get them up here for you. We're into the last 3 in the under-21A. We obviously had the Premier under-21. Ballybrown were winners in that, but Maruboher are the first team in the under-21A final. They beat Cushley Gales, and they'll play either Newcastle West or Kildimo Palace Kenry in the final. Interesting trio left, Matt. I suppose Newcastle West and Kildimo Palace Kenry are definitely 2 clubs going the right direction at an adult level. Maruboher have kind of gone the other way, but an under-21A win would go a long way in rectifying that.
Absolutely. You're obviously referencing they're not rooting up any trees in the intermediate championship this year after having been relegated from Premier last year. But I think it was a blow, obviously, to their morale to have lost Premier status this year, and I think it took them a bit of time to recover from it. But they finished the intermediate group stages pretty strongly, Jack, and they were left to wonder if only in the earlier rounds they had got it together. They certainly would have been in the concluding stages of the intermediate championship. I have no doubt about that. And watch them next year. I saw them playing, Jack, in the intermediate championship this year, and now they were disappointing the day I saw them. They were beaten by Brewery, but I thought I saw potential in them. I was surprised that they struggled to the extent that they did, but I think they finished the group stage strongly, Jack, and they finished it in such a way like that augurs well for the future. And this of course would be a major boost. Now they got a good result last night, Jack. They had to dig it out against Cushley Gales, who would be a combination of Effin and the Staker Wallace, and they would have included Fergal O'Connor, an All-Ireland winner, and they would have included Patrick O'Donovan, who played single with Limerick and who was outstanding with Effin in last year's county intermediate final, and the like of those. So they got over that hump, and but it's you would expect that Newcastle West will be very strong in it, and so too will Kildimo Palace Kenry. That's going to be a cracker of a semi-final, Jack, and I think it's down for decision next Tuesday evening.
Next Tuesday evening, yeah, it is. It's a fascinating game, and one that I think you'd be foolish to miss if you were around. It's down provisionally for Adare next Tuesday night at 8:00 in the B. Drumnat Lacka will play Adare in the final. Adare beat Ballybrick and Bournemore Fedamore last night. and Drummatlacha beat Askeaton last Friday. I was at that game. Credit to the boys from Askeaton. They're a really good team, but Drummatlacha powered, I suppose, by the Scully brothers, got over the line today. I think it was 1916. Shane Fitzgibbon at wing back for Drummatlacha was brilliant. Obviously, Oisin Farrell for Askeaton. I think he got maybe 14 points in the day, class as always. But Drummatlacha are another team that have been building, and they've won a lot of underage. But for Adare, I suppose, in the similar boat to Maru Bohar, they're intermediate. They'll be looking for these lads to power them through.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the competition, but I know that Glenroe had thought they had a very, very strong team this year, and the group stages would seem to have borne out that, but they lost in the quarterfinals to Drummatlacha 16 points to 13, which was a bit of a surprise. It was a very strong Glenroe team now, no question about it, powered by the like of Liam Dennehy and these, which like as you said yourself when you saw Drummatlacha, it probably augurs well for them that they've already won the under 19 B, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Or was it A? B,
the
First League Gale. So this would be a nice little double now. Shane Fitzgibbon was involved in that, I think, or Jack Fitzgibbon at least was involved in it. And the two Scully brothers, of course, who were outstanding, absolutely outstanding. They were involved in it. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting final, Jack. That comes into the category of a final not to be missed.
Yeah, I don't think there's a fixture on it yet, but it is provisionally down for Saturday. Now, I know Knockaderry played last night, so we'll wait and see and check the website or check Matt's Twitter if you want to get an update when that final is. But it should be very, very interesting. We've obviously had the kickoff of the football championships. We had the first couple of rounds of the Premier and A and B. We're into the final in the C. It'll be Bannock versus St. Senans. And I know you wanted to touch on it, Matt, and it has been a team, and it's a team that has affected my own club as well. Getting walkovers, teams, giving walkovers. It's not conducive to football in the county for teams to giving walkovers, and it brings down the integrity of competitions.
Oh, I agree totally with you, Jack. I couldn't agree more. I put up the results there every evening, as you know, and it was quickly brought to my attention on Sunday that I realised that there were 6 walkovers, and I'm just wondering, and I'm just worrying about this. The under 21 competition, is it mirroring the under 19 competition which we had earlier in the year, and which there wasn't really buy-in from the clubs. There was one particular evening, there were 7 games down to be decided. There was 2 played and there was 5 walkovers. This thing, I don't know, is it the structuring, Jack? I'm not so sure, because I think the structure is such that all clubs and teams are getting an opportunity to play at their own level. But I think, is it a scheduling matter? It's an end of the season. It's an end of the season. It's comes into the afterthought category, and players, mentors, and club officials probably at this time of the year, Jack, are simply tired.
Yeah, I'd say that.
It's been a long, hard this year, and with the split season, it really has taken its toll. It's taken its toll on everybody, even ourselves at our end, as you know, in covering it.
I get that. I think some teams could be, blessed with really good underage players, but also cursed in a way that it's the same group of players that are probably playing that under 19, under 21 age group. And, the better they are, they could be involved in inter-county setups. I know the underage ones are probably gone back, and you're asking so much from the same players. And then there would be that tiredness. It's so close to Christmas and people have their own things to do. It's just disappointing to see it as all. I'm not 100% sure what the solution is. I'm not sure if you are either, but you just like to see less walkovers.
I'm not, but I'm prepared to venture a solution. in that I think that it should be rescheduled to earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Now,
true.
it aroused debate now, the 6 turnovers on social media, and that is something that came through. And I honestly think that, this competition, a couple of suggestions were made. There was a suggestion made straight knockout.
Yeah,
which
true.
there's merit in. There was a suggestion made that it be played at possibly in March, when it may not impact on county teams.
Yeah, I
April,
just think
May, all that time is there. When you're playing leagues, important and all as they are, but certainly I think those the under 21 football championship could run along with those, could run concurrently with those.
yeah, you do make a valid
And
point.
you're into very, very bad weather, Jack, for the most part at this time of the year, or at least the risk of it. And I'm just wondering, Jack, about all these games being played under lights at this time of the year. Well, at any time of the year, but now particularly with the way energy costs have gone.
Yeah, that's very true as well. I know the new LED lighting system is far more efficient, but it does take its toll, and teams having to pay to play games and stuff. I don't know what the solution is, but it's definitely something that we won't, leave in the back burner. That we'll have to find a solution for that.
Yeah, Jack, but this is the type of stuff that should engage clubs. And this is the type of stuff that should be discussed at county conventions.
Yeah,
like there has to be a solution. There has to be a solution out there, and the solution has to be better than what we have at the moment, Jack. Because we certainly have a problem. We didn't have buy-in to the under-19 competition, and like in many ways, a lot of this under-21 competition is mirroring that, sadly. And if you look at it globally, in terms of Limerick football, it's not doing it one bit of good.
No, I think that's the key point coming with it. It's not doing Limerick any favours, and we see how well Limerick is doing in inter-county setups and now in Munster club setups. So hopefully there can be a solution found for all that. We had the elections results reveal on Friday. I'll just run through them quickly. Seamus McNamara is the new chairman. Vice chairman is Frank Reedy. Assistant treasurer Mary Hassett. I have an Irish in front of me. Jerry Phillips is in, and you'll tell me what Jerry is doing because my Irish has abandoned me at the last moment. It's just down as Kishdore in front of me. I'll get that. But Eamon Phelan is the new PRO. Just if you wanted to say anything on any of those appointments, there wasn't many surprises there, but Limerick is in a good place. You'll be hoping that those men and women can continue to bring Limerick forward, I suppose.
Yeah, Jack, if it's any consolation to you, unfortunately, my Irish deserted me about, I won't tell you how many decades ago. Not that I had great Irish at any stage, which I was telling you off air, but yeah, look, first of all, congratulations to all those that were appointed. The baton has been handed to them now, and what a baton it has been. Like, first of all, I would like to pay tribute to John Cregan, who has completed a phenomenal 5 years as chairman of the board, Jack, and who during that time has, you'd have to say, Jack, has provided inspirational leadership during that time. And it wasn't always easy for him in that he sadly during his reign lost his daughter Mary during his term of office. But his term of office, Jack, will be right up there with the very, very best. He was so amenable, so available at all times, and thank goodness, Jack, he's not lost to the board entirely, because he's moving on to the position of Munster Council representative.
Yeah,
And
no,
I would also like to pay tribute to Hugh Murphy, who is the outgoing PRO and who sought the election for the position of Assistant Secretary and was unsuccessful against Mary Hassett. We wish Mary the very, very best of luck. I'd worked with her during her time as Secretary of Borden and Og, during which time she did a very, very efficient job. Hugh is gone from the board, but I think over the 5 years, and like, as you know, Jack, for us that are working in the media, he would be the first port of call for us.
yeah,
And
100%.
he was always available at the other end of the phone. And I thought he did a very good job during his 5-year term. And I'd also like to pay tribute to Seamus Toomey, who is the outgoing Munster Council representative. Seamus sought the big job this year, the position of chair, but he was defeated by Seamus McNamara for the chair. And a man that did a phenomenal job, I think. Winning All Irelands, Jack, is one thing, but all this thing comes with a cost. And you needed a real steady pair of hands on the purse strings. And I think in Liam Burke, over the last 5 years, Liam from Fedamore, Limerick really, really had a top man in the job. And it saddens me that a man of the caliber of Liam Burke is being lost totally to the board at this stage, because he didn't seek further office. But I think as treasurer over the 5 years, he did a phenomenal job. I want to wish the best of luck to the 5 winners. Seamus McNamara, who I know for a very, very long time, and I know about his capabilities, and we saw what he was capable of doing as the outgoing vice chairman, a position which he served in for the last 5 years, served as secretary in the past of the West Limerick board. Seamus has come up through the ranks, Jack, and it's you know it's good to see the people that come up through the ranks getting the top jobs, because they understand, you know, what we mere mortals down on the ground and mere mortals down at club level, what they have to go through and the challenges that they have to go through. Frank Reedy is back on the board. Congratulations to Frank. He's a former Munster Council delegate. Frank is back in place of Seamus McNamara, and he saw off the challenge of Pat Davin and Emmett O'Brien for the position. And I'd like to congratulate everybody that contested these elections, whether they won or lost, Jack, because you know, for democracy to work, we need to have these kind of contests. We need to let the people have their say. And I'm not going into a rant now about you know, the things. Yeah, I know you're laughing at me, Jack, but I'm not going into a rant now. You're not going to tempt me into a rant about things being handed down from Croke Park. That's and you're looking tired at the moment, so Jack, I won't bore you any further on that. But
just try to.
But democracy, what we saw was an exercise in democracy, which was very, very important, very, very important for the health of the GA in the county. Sean Burke has made the transition from assistant treasurer to treasurer, and I have no doubt at all whatsoever that he will do a very, 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 very good job. He'll do an excellent job, in fact. He was a very, very familiar faces at Gates over the last 5 years, a man that runs things very, very, very efficiently. And of course, he doubles it up with being secretary of the city board. You know, a man that has invested an awful lot of time in the GA, and he will be replaced as assistant secretary by outgoing football board chairman Jerry Phillips. Now, Jerry has done his stint, and like, you'd have to say that he presided for 5 of the 6 years of Billy Lee's reign, which is probably the most successful reign by any Limerick football manager. And no doubt, when Billy, for Billy to do that, and he would be first to acknowledge it, he had to have the support of the board and those around him. And Jerry Phillips headed up that board, and he's now gone on to the senior board as assistant treasurer. He solved the challenge of Jim Enright from your own club in Eskeaton in that contest. And then we had a contest for PO, which Eamon Phelan of St. Patrick's is back. After a 5-year absence, Hugh Murphy took over from him 5 years when his 5-year term was up. And he's now back for a second helping, and he got the better of Aidan Ryan of Piarsaigh. But the other officers basically were unopposed. If I've left out anybody, please forgive me. But we congratulate them all. We wish them all the best of luck. It's in all our interests, Jack, that it works out for them. And what I say to you, lads, best of luck. More of the same. We'll be happy.
Yeah, that's spot on. I couldn't say it better myself. The best of luck to all of them. Before we go, big congratulations to the UL Freshers. They won the league title last night against DCU. There was 8 Limerick men in the side. Conor Henley-Clark was in goals, got 5 points from long-range frees. Evan O'Leary from a hand was cornerback, and Liam Dennehy got a point from Glenroe. He was corner forward. Also on the squad is Killian Quaid, Maru Boher, John Fitzgerald from the Piarsaigh. He's Mark Reedon from Castletown, Ballygrand, PJ Hogan, Cappamore, and Rena Byrne, Kilcore and Manister. That's 3 in a row for UL. We'll obviously have the Sigerson and Fitzgibbon Cup draws next week, so we'll look at them in full. We had the panels released during the week. There's, I think, 18 Limerick players in the Fitz squads, and there's 5 in the Sigerson. So we'll go through all them. But I think we'll leave it at that for this weekend, Matt. There's more concerning things. You want to pop in there?
I'm just saying there, my understanding, Killian Quaid that's on that panel is the son of Joe.
I think I didn't want to say on air. You're a bit liable more on air. Online you can edit your mistakes, but I think there is a connection there. He's named number 16, so I'd imagine he's a goalie. So
he was the Maru goalkeeper this year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so another Quaid coming through the ranks there. Conor Henley-Clark was obviously the goalie. He can play outfield as well, so it'll be an interesting battle for the goalie shirt. Whenever Nicky packs it in, but we hope that's not for a good few years at least. That'll do it all for today, Matt. With 72 minutes there. Big weekend for Newcastle and the Piarsaigh and Adare. 2 Munster finals, 1 All-Ireland semi-final. Please God, next week I think will be the penultimate normal episode of the year, that we'll have a couple of Munster Championship victories to look back on, like we did with Monaleen this weekend, and we'll be looking forward to Adare's All-Ireland final. But for now, we'll leave it at that. A huge thank you to everyone that listened. Again, if you're watching, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, and we'll be back again for more. So a huge thank you to you, and thank you to you, Matt.
Thanks, Jack.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.